Wow, what did we just watch there? I think we watched Nathan MacKinnon and the greatness that is Nathan MacKinnon elevate his game to a level that we haven't seen before, and that's saying something. MacKinnon is one of the best in the world, and then we saw the St. Louis Blues being the team that Blues fans know they can be. The comeback kids, the ones that never quit, and the ones that went on depth, because regardless of how good Nathan MacKinnon was tonight, it was a kid named Tyler Bozak from St. Louis that puts the dagger through the heart of Avs and Avs fans. And now the Avalanche themselves, most likely, because we're not the Avalanche, nor do we play for them yet, and Avs fans are going to be sitting there for 48 hours wondering, we had it. Is this really going to happen again? All the pressure switches back to the Colorado Avalanche as they go home to St. Louis and that rowdy crowd. St. Louis already has a cup behind their name recently. They have nothing to lose. They have talent and they're in, but it's Nathan MacKinnon and the Colorado Avalanche's time to write their name in greatness. Which one is it going to be? Let's break down this game. I'll tell you at the end of the video. MacKinnon's first goal of the night, he does it with his line mates. He does it with his teammates. The attack triangle is in full swing. They end up beating Husso 4 minutes into the game. And you got to be thinking right now, the superstar has come to play, and boy, did he ever. Following it up later in the first, more pressure on St. Louis as Nathan MacKinnon goes end to end again. I mean, this time he just decides, don't worry, guys, I'll call my own number, and he ends up beating Husso for his second of the night. Colorado's got to be thinking at home. MacKinnon's got to be thinking at home. That's it. It's done. Like a pro wrestler on the top ropes, letting everybody know that he just hit his finisher and it's lights out. However, the St. Louis Blues, like The Undertaker, got their shoulder up at the last minute. And they're still able to come back and tie this game. The third goal is off a face-off, and you hear me talk about it all the time. You're going to score goals off face-offs. You're going to score goals on power plays. You're going to score goals on rushes. Those are three of the most common ways you're going to put pucks in the back of the net. MacKinnon, the talented center, ends up winning it. It gets back to Devon Toews. Big clapper from the point. Landeskog tips it in. The big boys for Colorado are on fire. It's 3-0, but the comeback starts to march, and it's led by none other than Vladimir Tarasenko. And did Tarasenko and Robert Thomas pick a better time to show up and start scoring? Not that they've been bad in the playoffs. They have not been. This is Tarasenko's 6th goal in the playoffs, Robert Thomas's first, but it feels like it's been a minute since Tarasenko has put a big one in when they needed it. So you want to lean on your elite players like Tarasenko. They do it. Tarasenko from Shen, the powerhouse himself, Nick Leddy, and maybe we have a game. And what better goal for Tarasenko to score than top cheddar? I mean, the guy's a sniper, absolute dirty sniper off that rebound from Leddy. After that, it's Pavel Buchnevich, who is stick handling, dangling his way through everybody, doing his best Nathan MacKinnon impression. And then what ends up happening? Robert Thomas ends up beating Darcy Kuemper. Now, you've heard me talk about Kuemper. You've heard me talk about Markstrom. We talk about goalies a lot because I do think contract and expectations matter. When you are paid the starting money that guys like Markstrom and Kuemper are paid, you are paid that money because you are signaling to this goaltender that in big time moments, regardless of the difficulty of the shot, you are going to be an integral part of this team because you are going to make more difficult saves than an average goalie getting $2 million. Where are you going with this, coach? I'm going over to Antti Ranta over in Carolina. You've got a backup right now in Carolina who has been hot. Sure, he's lost the last 2, but he's a backup over in Carolina, stepping in for Freddie Anderson, and he's been fire in the playoffs. You aren't looking for goalies to just make the first save unless you're paying them $2 million. If they have a contract on the books, say like Mike Smith does for Edmonton or Ranta does for Carolina, all you're looking for them to do is keep you in the game, keep it close, and make the first save. Kuemper's done that, no problem. But when you're up 3-0, regardless of how the team ends up playing, and the team that is Colorado was getting beat by St. Louis and got beat tonight, you need your goalie to step up and make those big-time saves in the moment. A goalie making a big-time save that he shouldn't make is just as important, if not more important, than Nathan MacKinnon making an end-to-end rush to make the game 4-3, which he ended up doing. So it's not that Kuemper's been bad in this series. I don't think he's been bad at all. Kuemper's one of the better goalies in the West, and St. Louis is hyper talented, but you need to be able to hold on to 3-goal leads, and you need to close those out. That's the sign of a great team, and it's the sign of a great goalie. So I don't think it was just Kuemper. I don't think it was just the Avs, but something broke there, because when you're up by 3, it should be done. It's not to take anything away from the Blues, but it takes 2 things to occur to lose a 3-goal lead. It takes a team breaking down, and it takes a team playing really good. So St. Louis controlled what they could control tonight, which was just getting the next one. You hear the mantra from players all the time. Hey, we're down 3. Don't worry about 3. Worry about the next one. Worry about the next one. So the St. Louis Blues did that. They did their job and controlled what they could. The Colorado Avalanche didn't control what they could, though, and they allowed them to march right back into this game. That is until Nathan MacKinnon decided to step up, go end to end, and put in the filthiest, nicest goal I have ever seen. Now, if you've seen a nicer goal, you let me know down below. There are plenty of great goals. My recency bias has kicked in. It's 11:44 Central Time right now. I am saying off the top of my head, this is one of the nicest, if not the nicest goal I can recall seeing. Unfortunately, though, the pressure would end up getting to Colorado. Yes, you're at a 5-on-4, but you should be able to clear it. Colorado had an opportunity to clear it. They tried to gain the red line, and you know what they did? Instead of gaining the red line, they turned it over. In my opinion, they said this on the Canadian broadcast. American friends, you don't have it down there, so new information for you, but I'll give credit where it's due. I didn't come up with this myself. Kevin Biek's up in the Canadian booth said, I would have shot that puck, even if it's icing. You got a minute and a half left. The best thing you can hope for is 25 seconds off the clock, and Bieksa, the former Vancouver Canuck, shared the story about the Sedins telling him the same thing. Said the Sedins used to tell me, you get it down, you clear it, it's only 25 seconds. So with a minute and a half left, you can either put the game away and take an icing, but the risk reward is very different with a minute and a half. I think that's the point that Bieksa was making, and that's the point the Sedins ended up making to him. And I agree with that take. Take the shot. He was clear. You had the ability to score. You have the ability to end the game. So what? It's an icing. You go back down, you reset, no big deal. Because if you don't get the line, it ends up turning over and it ends up in the back of your net, and that's what happens. And if you do get the line, the best you've done is 25 seconds. Again, another golden nugget from my favorite, Kevin Bieksa, over on that Sportsnet panel. Guys, crushing it. And speaking of crushing it, you can help us crush it too, and you've been doing awesome, Avs and Blues fans. Go ahead, give us that big thumbs up like you have been doing. Go ahead, smash subscribe if you haven't before. 80% of you here are watching and not subscribed, so you're looking, but you're not buying. There's nothing to buy. It's free. Go ahead, hit that button. Help support a local content creator that stays up till 2 in the morning making free content for you. I would love it. And come join our Discord. We're very active in there. We got a great crew of folks, so I'd love to talk to Avs and Blues fans. I'm in there. Awesome moderators. You guys will end up liking it. And you know what? If you don't like the content, go ahead. Hit the thumbs down. I dare you. It still helps spread the word. Plus, it lets me know what is working and what isn't working. Comments, always wonderful. I read them all. I don't respond to them all. I respond to most, though. And if you really want to get a behind-the-scenes look, go ahead. Hit join down below for the members page and join the coach's staff. We would love to have you aboard. It's a way that you get guaranteed interaction with Coach Ryan D. You can even have a video made for you. You could have shout outs like these beauties right here. They have been fantastic. It's been growing. They are awesome. You are awesome for watching this video as well too. And hey, if the membership isn't your thing, think of a super thanks down below as well too. Like I said, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into this. Mostly tears. I don't find myself bleeding a ton on YouTube, so mostly tears end up going into it. But hey, just being here, giving a thumbs up. As we always promise, the content will always be free. 4 minutes into the game, St. Louis does the right thing. It's just a little flip pass. These things work quite well. They're usually a very low risk play, but nope. Colorado ends up doing their best basketball impersonation. They pick it out of midair, pop it down, and they're able to transition up the ice quick. What you end up seeing there on the transition game, and the transition game is just going from north to south. Changing directions is what it means. When you go from offense to defense, when you go from the defensive zone to the offensive zone, changing the direction of the game, you'll see all 3 Blues players end up getting caught on the transition, and because they're caught, That's going to allow the greatness that is the Nathan MacKinnon line to go ahead and do damage here. They end up with an odd man rush at this point in time, and it is just, there's nothing the Blues can do. What are you going to do? It is an absolutely beautiful, nobody saw MacKinnon coming in here, not the Blues, not me, not anybody. And when you leave it with one of the league's best players and he ends up in the high slot like this, you got no chance if you're Uso. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a shooter's shot. Take a look at the angle change MacKinnon makes. It's just a little wrist shot. It's not overly hyped. He waits till he gets in the middle. MacKinnon crosses the Royal Road himself. The angle change from north to south, meaning the pass ends up coming from low to high. He ends up walking it over the middle of the ice and then shoots it. There's nothing you're going to do about this when it's a guy as talented as MacKinnon. So a harmless little flip that should have worked, and there is no danger in doing that, ends up costing this 1-0 lead for the Avs. Husso really was doing well tonight. I mean, at one end of the net, you heard me talk critically about Kuemper. Well, he's got the bag, he's got the money, he's got the expectations. Husso had a great regular season, but this puck ends up firing across the Royal Road, and Husso makes a huge save. Saves like this win games. Saves like this win championships. Kuemper's got his own, but remember, Husso's job at his league minimum salary, because that's what he at, is just to keep his team in it. That's the expectation at this point. The starting goaltender, the hot goaltender anyway, and Binnington is out. So beautiful save by Husso. Teams feed off this stuff. That's the kind of stuff I'd be looking for from Kuemper. Great job by the Avs here, though. High danger chance. Power play here for Colorado. I had a commenter. You know what? I apologize. I can't remember your name. I would go back and get it. It is rude of me to not highlight it and get it, but you know who you are. Was asking me why players drop passes back. So here we go. We have the puck on the power play, and you're going to see a drop pass. The reason for this drop pass is simple. So you got a player over here. His job is going to be to cut hard across the ice, and by cutting hard across the ice, he's going to pull the St. Louis Blues defenders with him. Then the job of the offense is to go ahead and move the rest of the defenders to one side of the ice. So the defender at the back, who's going to end up picking this puck, has a clear lane to zone entry. Another fan on this channel asked, hey, they didn't used to do this in the 90s. Why do they do it now? Legitimate question. Thought it was brilliant. Because I like when people just admit, like, hey, this used to, I don't understand. Something changed and I missed it and I want to know more. So I always appreciate the curiosity. I think it's a great question. In the 90s, people used to give up the zone. That meant they didn't force turnovers at the red line or at the blue line. Penalty kills were the box, and you didn't get aggressive. You just held them to the outside. These days, penalty kills are aggressive. It's all about putting pressure on the puck. And because of that aggressive level of the penalty kill, forechecks and people carrying the puck on offense, they are having a difficult time entering zone. So the drop pass actually allows easier zone entry by forcing the defenders to get flat-footed or back up. So we end up seeing that drop pass here. St. Louis doesn't bite, though. And why does St. Louis not bite? Well, I mean, two things didn't happen. One, you didn't go across the ice. Two, you didn't go across the ice. So we're just standing still. That's too easy for the defenders. Number two, these guys, I mean, again, there's no speed. Everyone's just going in straight lines. When you're looking for zone entry at this point, the typical thing you want to do is you want to have guys crossing with speed. And by crossing with speed, they create confusion. But because they don't do that, St. Louis gets to set up in that aggressive format. So yes, you want to go ahead here and pressure the puck and force it to one side. Because you end up having a forehand here, this is a tougher pass, doesn't mean it ends up getting through, or you're going to bump it out to over here, and then you're playing a 4-on-3 at the zone. So that basically negates the drop pass that's supposed to happen, but that's okay. For every punch, there's a counter punch in playoff zone entry. In power play zone entry, playoffs, just focused on it. What ends up happening, though, is what we call option C. This is a dangerous option. I got to give it to him. This is high skill. Instead of making the safe play, which is the pass that we talked about, dangle. Why not? Why it's dangerous? If you lose that dangle, gone. Breakaway, it's in the back of your net. So bold decision, Cotton. We'll end up seeing if it pays off, and it does. So they end up getting the line, bumping it to the outside. That means you bump here. Player is going to end up driving down low, and then they're going to set up in their 1-3-1. But first, they're going to take an option to score on the rush, because you always want to try to score on the rush on the power play before you get zone set up. Rush is always your best friend. And the rush is exactly what they choose. MacKinnon ends up gliding down below. There's nothing wrong with that on the power play. You always hear me say, I don't like guys going this way, but that's okay because he can get his power play set up over here. You know, I normally like guys driving the mid lane, but on a power play, it's different. You got to get creative. You got to find holes. You got to find seams. So because MacKinnon ends up getting behind the defender, he finds a seam. Husso's going to be in trouble here because, I mean, it's just talent, just raw talent. Forces it in. They score on the rush. Now we know about drop passes. Now we know about aggressive penalty kills. When you're as talented as the Avs, though, sometimes you can just get creative and do whatever the heck you want. So they had so many options there, and just because the options I presented didn't happen doesn't mean that the Avs wouldn't do it next time, doesn't mean that they haven't been coached to doing them. It just means there's a lot of options when it comes to power plays. All right, simple little draw goal here. So what you end up having is you got your defender and you've got your defender. It's a unique setup. I mean, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I like it because you end up using your forehand here. So that's why your defender is here, because it's a left-hand shot taking a draw on the right-hand side. The other option that they have, and maybe they don't like it because it's a 50-50 puck, is you got a wall slap this way. So you're a lefty, you can slap it to the wall. That's a good way to end up winning a draw as well. Then you got to trust your defender to end up getting that puck. So as soon as the draw ends up taking off, you're going to see the wingers actually have to push in here. So you have one winger here, one winger here. So you've got to push in and get this puck because it's now a 50-50 puck. If that draw was one clean back, you would have seen two guys going to the point because that's their job on a lost draw, is to go to the point. But since this is a neutral draw, they're going to have to battle for it. And what ends up happening is Colorado just beats them to the puck. It also means the defender has to step in for the neutral draw. And this is going to put them out of position. So it's not that St. Louis did anything wrong here. This is just Nathan MacKinnon and the Avs being the Avs. They just beat them off this draw. And the puck ends up bumping back here to Devon Toews. And because it takes that 50-50 battle down here to get it back to Devon, now what you end up with is a cluster. You've got a defender who's out of position over here. You have nobody in the shot blocking lane because they were unable to get up in time. And this is going to lead to the goal. So that shot ends up coming in on net, takes advantage of the fact that guys are out of position, tips in off Landeskog, puck ends up going in. Lot of nuances on draws, lots of nuances. Power plays and draws. Coaches spend a lot of time at the whiteboard on those types of plays and those types of things because they're stop-start plays, meaning it's not a flow play. It's something that you can practice that's predictable. Outcomes of face-offs, players line up in a certain way. There's only so many ways the puck can go. One draw, lost draw, neutral draw, left neutral, right neutral. You can plan for this like a good football play would. You can plan for zone entries on power play. You can't really plan for the third minute of a flow game, so that's just the boys playing. You're just going to give them tactics. That's why we spend, and we are a coach, we spend a lot of time talking about face-offs, and we spend a lot of time talking about power plays. Tons of goals generated off them. They're super important. The comeback starts with Nick Leddy here at the point. Just fires a nice little shot there. There's not much of an angle change there. Nick Leddy's a meat and potatoes kind of guy at this point in his career. There's nothing wrong with it. Steady Eddie type of player. When he ends up putting it towards the net, the cluster in the net ends up kicking out. And I like what Colorado's doing here. Look, tying up sticks. Very physical. That's how you want to play in front of the net. They're not cross-checking yet. They're not stick pressing yet. It's a good tie-up. But unfortunately, the puck bumps out to the high slot. And when pucks end up going out to the high slot, it's usually a very dangerous thing for a goalie. Tarasenko is able to capitalize. On it in the high slot. And it's just a no-look shot. And if you wonder if these things are lucky, players actually spend, especially goal scorers like Tarasenko, they'll find something on the glass here, on the board, somewhere in the rink that they're going to use as a marker for where the net is when they're not looking. So Tarasenko, I guarantee you he ends up doing that. Players know rinks very well, even though they're the visiting team on this one. They find places to give themselves markers, so when they're unable to look at where they're shooting, they still know where they're shooting. That's what makes them so good. Speed kills in hockey. They end up getting caught on a change, and when you're 4-on-2 here, 3-on-2, you can't back in. Bad play here by the Colorado defenseman and offense. Just not what you want to do. All you got to do, stand them up at the line. You have odd numbers. When you have odd numbers, that means you're winning the battle. So when you have 3, you want to pressure. You only want to pressure when you are even, meaning a 2-on-2 or a 1-on-1, or you're up 3-on-2. You never want to back in. You only back in when you're outmanned. So if it's a 3-on-2, then you back in. But they don't. And this is what happens with speed, though. It happens to every NHL player. Speed will back you in at all points in time. So Buchnevich uses that speed. He may not be as nifty and shifty as hat trick MacKinnon over here, but he ends up driving wide, and it causes a fit, absolute fit for the Colorado defenders and Darcy Kuemper. Robert Thomas puts in his first of the playoffs. Very timely goal. Ends up beating Kuemper exactly where Kemper's not going to have a chance on this puck when it's put over here. He's in the right position. It's just a great shooter's shot at that point, and a really nice job done by St. Louis. Nathan MacKinnon going 200 feet says it's over. I'm doing it myself, and speed absolutely matters. Everybody should be standing up at this point in time. You have an odd man rush, but sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Look, it's technically a 4-on-3, but we could call this a 4-on-1 at this point. MacKinnon ends up busting in. This is good gap right now. The defender has him at this point in time. The gap should be all about the defender, and the gap is right here. It's a perfect stick length away. But sometimes when you're one of the best in the world, you just got to be one of the best in the world. Look at that filthy move. Absolutely filthy drag. Unbelievable by MacKinnon. Puts the puck up, puck's in the back of the net. Endo of the game-o, or so you'd think. And it's moments like this that live in time. The Joey Bats for the Toronto Blue Jays throwing the bat. But these moments get forgotten slowly if you don't end up winning. And that was the point I was making at the end of the video. Tyler Bozak, who is not Nathan MacKinnon, he doesn't have the history, the rep of Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon winning the series, getting the Avs through the illustrious second round that they couldn't get through, putting the team on his back, being one of the best players in the world on a goal like that. That's the narrative, and that's the story. And even though nothing takes away from the fact that MacKinnon had a hat trick, MacKinnon's one of the best in the world, he is going to go home and think about nothing but the fact that the St. Louis Blues beat his team. He will not care about individual accolades. The St. Louis Blues and Tyler Bozak beat his team, and he's not going to feel great about that one. And then greatness, it starts to get erased because the winner writes history. Overtime is 6-on-5 time. So normally what you have is what's called a box plus 1. If you have a 5-on-3 power play, so you're going to have 4 players there, you just go ahead and you add the 5th one there to it, and then you're going to put your plus 1 in the middle. So it's not a box. You hear the term box plus 1 all the time, but it's 5 on the outside. You could call it a star plus 1 if you want to, but you have everybody on the outside slowly collapsing towards the net while you have your guy in the middle as your outlet pass or your support pass. St. Louis ends up moving it wide across the Royal Road, down low as they're supposed to do. Colorado is in fine position. They're doing exactly what they need to do, and this one ends up going off of Kuemper's mask. At first, I thought, man, this guy let out a bad rebound, but no, when you get hit in the head with the puck, there's not much you're going to do. You're going to see a bit of stars. It does hurt. It does rattle you, and they end up putting it in order to tie it and go to overtime. And here's a closer look at that puck. Just goes right up and under the chin. That's nasty for a goalie. Great shot. And if you want to know why he made that shot, it's because you want to shoot for ear holes. So when you're in that spot, that was actually picked off on purpose. He wasn't shooting for his head to just hit him in the head. He was shooting to score, because if you put it by the goalie's ear hole, that's actually a really great place to put, because 1, it'd bank off the helmet or go in, or 2, it's actually a great way to give you an aiming of just over the shoulder. So that's what he's shooting for. He doesn't hit his target because he hits him under the chin. He wasn't aiming for that. He's aiming for the ear. I promise you that. That's exactly what we practice repeatedly. Shoot for the ear, we tell the players. He does. Slight miss, but it's okay. Fortunate bounce ends up going in for them. And this is how you erase greatness. You erase greatness with a great forecheck. The Blues end up winning on the forecheck here, getting the puck loose, down low. Then what they're going to end up doing is carrying it up high. We talk about north to south all the time in the offensive zone. Sometimes at this point in time, the hockey gods are with you. Leddy ends up putting it into a cluster, and it hits a player. It just hits players. It takes a fortunate bounce, like the song Fortunate Son. They're able to pick it up off of that bounce, and it is Tyler Bozak that is carrying the puck in here. And just a little shot on net. Not great by Kuemper there. You got to stop that one. So at the end of the day, goalie's got to keep that out of the net. Nothing spectacular, nothing to break down on that shot from Bozak. You're just putting him on net. And why wouldn't you put them on net? You always hear the term, pucks on net. You never know what's going to happen. And in overtime, that is always true. Always take the shot in overtime. You're only one shot away from winning the game at any point in time. You can score from anywhere on the ice as long as the puck is on the net. Bozak does it. And are the Avs in trouble? I promised I'd revisit this. I'm going to say no. I still had the Avs in 6. I'm still confident in the Avs in 6. I think they're the better team out of the two, but we knew St. Louis was going to give them some fits. This series is not over yet, though. I do not have a sports almanac. The St. Louis Blues can still and absolutely may win this series because of the curse of the second round of the Avalanche. The Avalanche got to stay out of their own head. They got to erase this short memory, and they got to come back into the game thinking about it goal by goal. When they get up 3 goals, again, Kevin Bieksa talked about this, and I always trust NHL players when they talk because they've lived and breathed the game. He said, when you get up by 3, you start thinking about your other opponent. You start thinking about what you're going to do in the party before the night before. You just start thinking about things other than your game that you're in right now. And Colorado, he believes, did that. I can't confirm that because I'm not Colorado, nor am I an NHL player, but I really like the take and wanted to repeat it for you guys because when he talks, I listen. He's a very intelligent player who has played at the highest level and made it to a cup final. So Bieksa, always a big shout out, guys. A beauty. I think the Avs end up taking this one in St. Louis, but that crowd is going to be rocking. St. Louis Blues fans are going to comment down below telling me how I'm wrong, and I love it. You go ahead and you do it. You got to believe in your team the whole way, and you tell me how you're going to push this to Game 7. And if it is, I'll be there with you for Game 7. We'll be watching it. We'll be commenting on it. Can't wait to see you there.